for a while? People, can I just have your attention for a while? I'd like just like to say to fellow Malaysians, friends from Malaysia, supporters of democracy, welcome. And thank you all for being here to show support for the call of free and fair elections in Malaysia. Only when elections are clean and fair can citizens be real masters of their own destiny and expect holders of public office to act accountably and effectively. That's a quote, by the way, not my words. As long as citizens do not have the power to throw the rascals out, the hope for rule of law, human rights protection, good governance and sustainable development will be at the mercy of self-interested politicians. A real prospect of changing the government of the day is the key check and balance against the abuses of power. Bersih is a coalition comprising 62 civil society organizations with the objective of campaigning for clean and fair elections in Malaysia. Unfortunately, after more than 50 years of independence and 48 years since the establishment of Malaysia, the country has failed to establish a free and fair electoral process. Not only...
You need to hold right up to your mouth, and then maybe tap the volume on the side.
Okay.
Yeah, try that. And right up to next to your mouth.
Not only has civil society, political parties and international observers come to the conclusion, it was also admitted by the former chairman of the Election Commission himself, Tan Sri Abdul Rashid Abdul Rahman. Come forward. It was admitted by the... Is it on? Chairman of the Election Commission himself, Tan Sri Abdul Rashid Abdul Rahman, after the general elections of March 2004, which was marred by irregularities and controversies at an unprecedented degree. Even he found it necessary to agree with the public clamour for an independent inquiry. Regrettably, Abdul Rashid retired shortly after that, and the independent inquiry was never carried out. This flawed electoral process raises questions about the legitimacy of the state. Its continuity will not bode well for Malaysia's future and will harm the legitimacy of the political system. Bersih therefore feels that all Malaysians must join forces to push for a thorough reform of the electoral process and has asked for support from the Malaysian communities residing overseas and from the global community overall. We, gathered here today, together with our brothers in cities spanning Australia and the world, have answered that calling. In a bid to help move the country towards making elections fairer and cleaner, Bersih has asked via 8 demands that these weaknesses and defects be overcome and measures further strengthening the electoral process be adopted. These 8 demands are: 1. Clean the electoral roll. The electoral roll is marred with irregularities such as deceased persons' names and multiple persons registered under a single address or non-existent addresses. This has given rise to the myth of the phantom voter, where come election day, spirits rise from the grave to come exercise their right to cast their votes. The electoral roll must be revised and updated to wipe out these phantom voters. 2. Reform postal ballots. The current postal ballot system must be reformed to ensure that all citizens of Malaysia are able to exercise their right to vote. Postal ballots should be open for all Malaysian citizens living abroad and not just confined to government employees and government scholars residing overseas. Police and military personnel who are not on duty on election day should not be voting as part of the postal voting system within barracks where opposition party agents have no access. The postal ballot system must be transparent. Party agents should be allowed to monitor the entire process of postal voting. The use of indelible ink. Indelible ink must be used in all elections. It is a simple, affordable and effective solution in preventing voter fraud. In 2007, the EC decided to implement the use of indelible ink. However, in the final days of leading up to the 12th general elections, the EC decided to withdraw the use of indelible ink, citing legal reasons and rumors of sabotage. Bersih 2 demands for indelible ink to be used for all the upcoming elections. Failure to do so will lead to the inevitable conclusion that there is an intention to allow voter fraud. Demand 4. Minimum 21 days campaign period. The EC should stipulate a campaign period of not less than 21 days. A longer campaign period would allow voters more time to gather information and deliberate on their choices. It will also allow candidates more time to disseminate information to rural areas. The first national elections in 1955 under the British colonial government had a campaign period of 42 days. But the campaign period for the 12th general election in 2008 was a mere 8 days, thus depriving the opposition parties time to organize campaign stations and other election paraphernalia, while the governing coalition election infrastructure was in place within 24 hours of the announcement. If only they were as efficient in running the day-to-day business of the country as they were in running the elections, we would have a much more effective government. Failure and fair access to the media. It is no secret that the Malaysian mainstream media fails to practice proportionate, fair and objective reporting for political parties of all divide. Bersih calls on the EC to press for all media agencies, especially state-funded media agencies such as Radio and Television Malaysia and Bernama, to allocate proportionate and objective coverage for all political parties. 6. Strengthen public institutions. Public institutions must act independently and impartially in upholding the rule of law and democracy. Public institutions such as the Judiciary, Attorney General, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Agency, Police and the EC must be reformed to act independently, uphold law and protect human rights. In particular, the EC must perform its constitutional duty to act independently and impartially so as to enjoy public confidence. The EC cannot continue to claim that they have no power to act like they did in the by-election in Cebu, Sarawak, where the Prime Minister gave his famous "You help me, I help you" speech, which appeared on national television. You vote for my candidate and tomorrow I will sign the check to pay for the flood relief work you have been asking for. The laws to deal with such conduct are there, yet the EC says it is powerless to act against the Prime Minister. Demand 7. Stop corruption. Corruption is a disease that has infected every aspect of Malaysian life. Bersih and the Rakyat demand for an end to all forms of corruption. Current efforts to eradicate corruption are mere tokens to appease public grouses. We demand that serious action be taken against all allegations of corruption, including in particular vote buying. 8. Stop dirty politics. Malaysians are tired of dirty politics that has been the main feature of the Malaysian political arena. Those in government seem to be obsessed with sex crimes and sex videos. If it is not Anwar committing sodomy, it is Anwar acting in blue flames. To the point where even the courts have been turned into a porno theatre. Us Malaysians who grew up in Malaysia have to ask ourselves, what has happened to our beloved Malaysia? We demand for all political parties and politicians to put an end to gutter politics. As citizens and voters, we are not interested in gutter politics. We are interested in policies that affect the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, again I thank you for being here to show support for this cause and for showing solidarity with the brave souls in Malaysia who at this moment are working for democracy against the gauntlet, which is the Royal Malaysian Police Force. May God be with them. Thank you.